What's up? Coming at you live through the power of the internet. So today, I have here one of the books that Terry Farrell did. This is from way back when, uh, and this is a really serious book. Like, this thing is no joke. I mean, let me try to bring the camera down here a little bit to give you a better idea. I mean, this is a huge book. This is no joke. Like, this book is, let me see here. This book is 319 pages long, and this is a Star Trek book. Like, at the top here, it says an in-depth look behind the scenes of the smash hit television series, The Making of Star Trek Deep Space Nine. And this book was written by Judith Reeves and Garfield Stevens. And this book was written in 1994. So this book is from way back, and the book is really in depth about Deep Space Nine. It has every kind of Deep Space Nine thing imaginable in the book. It describes it all. They wrote about it all, like all the various Deep Space Nine things that you could imagine are in there. And because the book is so big, like when they made this book, the Terry Farrell stuff that Terry Farrell talks about, or that is written about, is all over the book. It's scattered everywhere. It's scattered at all over the book. So what I did is I put these little pieces of paper, so I could have an easier time finding this stuff. And so this is what Terry Farrell said or wrote about, or had written about in 1994. Let me see here. Oh man. This one, let's see. Is there something else? Oh yeah. This is one of the Terry Farrell things. There is a picture of Terry Farrell, and it says, "Each day of filming, Michael Westmore paints trill spots onto Terry Farrell by hand. Since each application is unique, both Farrell and Westmore decided they were works of art. Thus, Westmore informs us that he now signs and numbers each set of spots as he finishes them. We did not ask for specific location details." Alright, so what's going on? Well, this is what's going on in 1994. Big stuff's happening. So, let me see here. Wait a minute. Where's this thing? Right, here's another one. Oh, here we go. says here, Shepard left the Paramount lot that day, excited to have what he thought was going to be about 1 week's work, even though his friends and family would never recognize him on screen. But being offered the job and actually getting it can sometimes be two different things. Days went by and Shepard didn't get the call from the Deep Space Nine production office telling him when he would be needed on set. In television, especially for a pilot, such fluidity of scheduling can be typical. Indeed, the pilot had been filming for a week before Terry Farrell was cast as the Trill Science Officer, Jadzia Dax, and it wasn't until 2 more weeks had passed that she stepped on the set and began filming her role. Even then, after only 2 days, the producers decided they didn't want her makeup to cover up so much of her face, had it redesigned, and sent her back to reshoot all her scenes. So at first, Shepard wasn't too concerned about not hearing from the show. And let's see, the next thing, or the next one, is you see, alright, so on this one, it says, next is Jadzia Dax, Science Officer. A short background of her joined species, the Trill, is given based on what was established in the Next Generation episode, The Host. Essentially, she is an attractive 28-year-old woman, Jadzia, who shares her consciousness with a 300-year-old worm, Dax, which lives within her body. Like certain details about the DS9 station, some of Jadzia Dax's backstory details changed between this version of the Bible and the production of the pilot. Was that it, or was there some more stuff? It says, oh yeah, there's some more Dax stuff. As we see in the first episode, when a host dies, in Dax's case, her last host was an elderly man. Doctors surgically remove the symbiont. The worm then burrows itself into the new host. Dax's host was joined with her when she was 6 years old. Ro, who forms a very close relationship with Dax, often tells her to loosen up. Dax admires Ro for her youthful energy, her purpose, and her drive, and becomes something of a mentor to her. Dax and Ben Sisko have a backstory. They worked together on Mars not long before coming to DS9. A potential romance between them never materialized because of his inability to move forward with his life. He would deny it. He would joke that he couldn't get used to the fact that she is a 300-year-old worm and one who used to be a man, or part of a man anyway. There is a sexual tension between them, which they both resist, but he does not hide the respect and affection he has for her. And then it goes on and it talks about some of the other characters, Odo and so forth. Let's see, the next this is part of the book I thought was kind of neat. It's a page of just some pictures, and what you're looking at here is basically Deep Space Nine. How they made Deep Space Nine, the set. It was a empty building or room, and it's just pictures showing uh, when the set or when Deep Space Nine was built or made in one of the rooms or buildings. Uh, so that was that. Let's see here. All right, so on this part of the book, what happened was when they made this book, the two people that or the two authors that written on the cover, what they did is those two people they actually were at Deep Space Nine for like a whole year. They just stayed at Deep Space Nine during like a whole year, and they would interview people and write about some of the stuff that went on and all the other various things. And at this part of the book, it has a bunch of interviews with all the various characters and actors. And this is the interview that Terry Farrell did. It has also a picture of Terry Farrell as Lieutenant Jadzia Dax. And it says here, when they're taking your picture forever, it's nice to be awake. And this is what Terry Farrell said in the interview. Terry Farrell's role of Jadzia Dax, the science officer who is half beautiful, young woman, half 300-year-old slug, was the last to be filled for Deep Space Nine. As Rick Berman says, a beautiful young woman is always the most difficult role to cast on television, especially one who can act. In most cases, young female actors want to move directly to films, and an ongoing commitment to a successful series can severely interfere with the actor's availability for feature work. But in Terry Farrell's case, though she is young, she has already achieved the success that most actors her age are still struggling for, and a television role was not an interruption of her career, but an extension of it. Farrell began her career early by signing with the prestigious Elite Modeling Agency at age 16. Over the next several years, she appeared on the sought-after covers of magazines such as Vogue and Mademoiselle. Seeking to expand her career opportunities, Farrell began studying acting in Los Angeles and New York, and quickly landed the co-starring role of Rory Caswell in the ABC series Paper Dolls, playing a young woman caught up in the machinations of the modeling and cosmetics industries. Farrell then went on to numerous guest roles in such hit series as The Cosby Show, Family Ties, and Quantum Leap, as well as co-starring with Faye Dunaway in the NBC telefilm L.A. Madame. Farrell's credits don't end with television either. Her feature film credits include the Rodney Dangerfield hit Back to School and the lead in Miramax's Hellraiser 3. In keeping with the chaos theory of television, though, she couldn't know it at the time. All these roles relate directly to her performance as Jadzia Dax. Everything you do prepares you, Farrell says, whether you do a series or a feature. However, she does feel that of all her previous roles, making the feature film Hellraiser 3 was the experience most like making Deep Space Nine. and not just because of that film's special effects and odd creatures. You shoot a low-budget feature the way we shoot Deep Space Nine. She explains, on Hellraiser 3 we shot fast. There were a lot of setups every day. It wasn't like some slow pace. It was hurry up, oh my god, you go into overtime, and the producers have a heart attack. The producers come down and go, what are you doing? Farrell laughs as she remembers her work on the Hellraiser film. But Paper Dolls was a drama, Farrell continues, like a soap opera. As an actor, you're not saying anything particularly bizarre that couldn't happen to you in real life, at least in a dramatized version of it. You're not wearing anything odd, you don't have anything odd happening to you, really. I mean, certainly nothing that you have to imagine. Deep Space Nine, of course, despite the personal core that lies beneath all the stories, is science fiction, and as the station's science officer, Farrell has to contend with more than her fair share of Star Trek's trademark techno-babble. The pilot for me was all techno-babble, Farrell says. I tried to have it sound like I knew what I was talking about, but I had no idea what I was saying. Finally, she came up with a method for coping with this part of her character. Memorize it. Straight memorize it. Instead of trying to find an intention, just memorize it. And then find stuff later. Fortunately, she soon found out she was not alone. Later, when I got to work with Comb more often, I felt great because he forgets all the time too. That made me feel a lot better. Like her fellow cast members, Farrell has found that creating her role has become easier over time. In the first season, Farrell recalls that she would start her preparation for an episode by reading and memorizing the white pages, which is the first draft of a script released by the writing staff. That was a difficult approach to take for the simple reason that multiple script revisions would follow, and in each her lines might have been changed and or increased or reduced. But as Farrell says, though reading the white pages is harder, she did it because you don't know the character yourself and you want to work on it to know your character better. But now, a year later, it's a little easier because you can read it to get the idea and know what the script's about, and wait until you get changes to actually start breaking it down, or break it down without memorizing it. In the beginning, you're so excited you want to memorize it. Farrell's practical approach to her role mirrors that of her co-star, Renee Agenois. Agenois has often said that as a father with 2 children in college, from a strictly financial point of view, he welcomed the chance to have a steady role for the next few years. Similarly, when Farrell was cast as Jadzia Dax, Rick Berman gave her a hug and told her her life was now going to change. But when Farrell is asked what the impact of being on the series has been, her simple answer is to smile and say, "I still have my house." Like several other members of the cast who play non-humans, Farrell's day begins several hours before she's actually due on set with a hair and makeup call. Farrell calls it the only routine part of her work on Deep Space Nine. Every day, the second AD6 greets me out here and I get my coffee and that's my warm-up for the day. Then, the mission to find Michael Westmore in the morning is probably the biggest deal. Westmore, who designs and supervises the makeup for Deep Space Nine, was sometimes hard to track down in the first 2 seasons because he had the same responsibility for the next generation. Michael does my makeup, and he does Brent and Gates on the next generation. So it can get kind of crazy when they need both Brent and myself at the same time. Last time I won out and got done first, and this time Brent won, and I had to sit and wait 45 minutes. All told though, Farrell is pleased with her morning routine. After refining her makeup during the first episodes, it now takes about 45 minutes for her hair and 45 minutes for her distinctive shrill markings to be hand painted by Westmore. She finds that the approximately 2 hours of preparation gives her time to wake up before going on camera, which is pleasant, Farrell says. When they're taking your picture forever, it's nice to be awake. And over here on the side of the page, it says Star Trek Deep Space Nine. And it has all the revised stuff. This one is for Emissary, the teleplay or the story. And I guess this is one of the final drafts. And it says the title page for Emissary, which was revised 22 times after the revised final draft of August 10, 1992. And it says here on the bottom, because scripts invariably go through multiple revisions, sometimes involving only a few scenes or even a few lines, television production studios use a system of color-coding revision pages. On Deep Space Nine, the following order is used. First draft, first revision, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth. White, blue, pink, yellow, green, goldenrod, puff, salmon, canary, tan. After the 9th revision, the sequence begins again with white. The pilot script Emissary ended up with 3 sets of white pages after going through the full color sequence more than twice. However, now that the series is in ongoing production, 5 to 6 revisions is more often the norm. Second, assistant director, whose duties often include keeping track of the cast when they're off the set, so that they will be able to go to the set when the director is ready for them. And that was that. Or the end of that article or interview. And it talks about the other characters. Or it has interviews with the other actors and characters on the show. Let's see. This one. Let's see where. It takes me a while or a minute to find where this stuff is written, so. Alright. So this one starts after rehearsal. The principal actors leave the set while stand-ins take their positions, and the lighting for the set is adjusted to be proper for the scene to be filmed. The actors use this time to memorize their lines for the upcoming scene, or to read a new script, make phone calls in their trailers, or be interviewed by inquisitive book writers. But it is also during this time and other free moments during their long days that they might arrange their own rehearsals with each other. As an example of impromptu rehearsal, Armin Shimmerman and Renee Eugenois make use of the time they share having their makeup applied in the same trailer, side by side. On those days when their call times and makeup coincide, the two actors use the hour or so they're seated next to each other to run over any lines they might have together. For the second season episode, The Siege, when Terry Farrell read the script and saw that she and Nana Visitor had many pages of dialogue on their own to be filmed in the cramped quarters of a Bajoran spaceship, Farrell called Visitor and said, "My God, did you see what we have to do next episode?" Farrell explains that because we were shooting 10 pages in 2 days, and it was a ship called a Rider, smaller than a runabout, we knew we'd have a lot of added actions to perform and to try to learn our lines over external sound, and all the other confusion in a small set would be hard. So the two actors arranged to meet for breakfast and run over their lines, which helped them prepare for their 2 difficult days. Given that every day sounds difficult for the cast of Deep Space Nine, what really makes the difference between an easy day and a truly hard day? Overall, the first 2 days of an episode's shoot are generally easier because in most episodes there hasn't been enough time to fall behind schedule. Actors don't tend to be forced at the beginning, and overtime is kept to a minimum. However, by the time the company has reached the last 2 days of an 8-day shoot, the schedule is likely to be strained, the cast suffering from sleep deprivation, and the director fending off the producers who are worried about cost overruns. For individual actors, whether a show is easy or hard is usually a function of how large a part the actor has in that episode's script. Because Deep Space Nine is an ensemble show, the burden of carrying the show each week does not depend solely on one particular actor, as for example, the series Murder, She Wrote, depends on lead actor Angela Lansbury. Instead, it's possible to have an episode that focuses on Odo 1 week, giving Renee Eugenois 7 days of early calls and long hours, while Terry Farrell and Cole Meany might only have to appear in 2 or 3 scenes filmed on 1 or 2 days. However, the next episode might have Odo in the background, giving Eugenois time to catch up on his sleep, while Meany and Farrell have to stay on set until 2 in the morning, reciting technobabble to each other. As a character who once played poker on The Next Generation said, it's all relative. And then it goes, I think that's about it. Then it goes off and talks about some of the various other things. Okay, so I got, let's see, is there one more? Yeah. Okay, so the other Terry Farrell thing, on the other side of the book, let me see here. Has some picture stuff. And where is this thing? With the length of each scene precisely set, the composers score the episode according to the decisions made at the music spotting meetings. A music recording session at the Paramount lot can complete the soundtrack for an episode in an afternoon. Sound effects editors go to work adding everything from footsteps to the sounds of a tray in the replimat, and some dialogue, or if some dialogue doesn't come out clearly enough, actors loop their lines in a sound studio, in effect dubbing themselves with their own voices. The term loop comes from the days when actors would watch themselves on a film loop rather than on a video monitor. In the meantime, office staff type up credit lists and circulate them to almost everyone involved in the production, checking for spelling, new job titles, and even new names. For Emissary, when it reached this stage, what had taken almost 200 people more than 5 months in various production phases to complete had finally been distilled down to 85 minutes of videotape plus credits, ready for airing the first week of January 1993. And when that happened for the first time, a Star Trek series broke with tradition. Remember that review for the original series back in Chapter 2? Well, this is representative of how the world at large greeted Deep Space Nine, taken by Jeff Jarvis's review and TV guide, February 13, 1993. Brooks is a mighty presence. This could be his breakout role. Terry Farrell is cool and alluring as a wide old beast wearing a beautiful woman's body. Armin Shimmerman has a wonderfully rodenty quality as Quark the casino owner, the Donald Trump of space. This cast is at least as strong as the Next Generation, but this series is far stronger, for it is more than just a spin-off. It's a wholly new show with its own vision and its own message for our new world. Wow. If it had been a movie, everyone involved would have had a big party and gone on vacation. But this was television. All anyone involved with Deep Space Nine could do was go home and try to catch some sleep, because the next day they'd have to get up and feed the machine by doing the whole thing over again. For once, television is just like real life. The last line of the first season, then I guess we've made some progress after all, fade to black. And that, let me see here. Yeah, that Farrell thing in the huge book, DS9 book.